This is Advanced Math, Unit 7, Lesson 4. Law of cosines and Heron's formula. Put area formula. All right, law of cosines. As I've said in class previously, law of sines is really nice. I like it. It's really quick. It's really easy. Okay, law of cosines looks like this. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. And yes, you will need to have that memorized. One way to think of it is you start with a and you end with a. Lowercase a squared cosine of angle A. And if you cover those, you see there's no a's on the inside. B squared plus c squared minus 2bc. Do you see that? B squared plus c squared minus 2bc. And then start with a and end with a. So if you're starting with little b squared, you're not going to have any little b's in here. You're going to have a squared plus c squared minus 2ac, and then cosine, you started with side b, so cosine of angle b. Hit pause and try to write the one for c squared on your own, looking at the pattern, and see if you can do it. Okay, c squared equals, we can't have any c's in here, so a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine, we started with c, so cosine of angle c. So there you go. Now, yes, you need to know them all, but they're all the same things, just letters moved around. So you just need to know the general format and how to move your letters around. All right, number one, solve. Lowercase a is 45, c is 20, and angle B is 47 degrees. A, B, C. Lowercase a is 45, lowercase c is 20, and angle B is 47. Okay, when you see something like this, do you see where I have an angle and no matching side? I have a side and no matching angle, a side and no matching angle. We know we're not going to be able to use law of sines. A equals angle B equals angle C, lowercase a, B, and C. All right, you will need your scientific calculators, so if you don't have one, hit pause and go grab yours now. All right, given information. Angle B is 47 degrees, side A is 45, side C is 20, and that's the given information. All right, we can't use law of sines again because I have no matching angle with its corresponding side. Okay, so if I'm going to use law of cosines, I can see here that I have angle B. Angle B is the only one I have, so I'm going to use this formula here, meaning I'm going to be looking for side B because that's the only thing I don't know in this formula. I know angle B, I know sides A and C, but I don't know side B. So we set it up like this. B squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac cosine of angle B. B squared, we don't know what B is, so B squared equals 45 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 45 times 20 times cosine of 47. And you can type this in exactly as you see it. Actually, I'll put that back on the paper. Okay. So when you go to plug this in, you're going to plug in 45 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 45 times 20 times cosine of 47. Excuse me. Hit equals, and you end up with this really big number. Do not clear that number. Do not round that number. Just to show work, I am going to write down b squared equals 1197.402 dot dot dot. Now I'm not rounding, so I'm not changing that to a 3. I'm not rounding. I don't want to write the whole number down, but I want to show some work. And then I square root both sides. And remember, we talked about this in class previously. To square root both sides, you do second square root, and then rather than retyping that number in, you hit second answer. Second square root, second answer, and that's going to tell the calculator to take the square root of your last answer. Enter, and then now we're going to round. 34.604. Okay, 34.604. All right, now we're ready to find angle A. We could find angle B first. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to find A because it comes first in the alphabet. All right, so we just found side B. Technically, right here, if you wanted to, you could have hit your square root key first. You could have done this, square root, and then plugged it in your calculator that way. Second square root, and then plugged all of that stuff in. That's totally up to you, your choice, whether you do the square root at the end or at the beginning before typing everything in. Okay, finding angle A. Now remember, when I'm looking for angle A, or any angle, I will be using the inverse key. I'm going to put a little star by this one. Finding an angle using law of cosines does require a bit more work, so you want to make sure you understand. Again, if I'm looking for angle A, I'm going to be using this formula here, which means it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of angle A. And I'm going to try to isolate cosine of angle A. Why? Because I want to get cosine of angle A by itself so I can use my inverse key. It is easier if you get it by itself first from the get-go. Like before you plug everything in, you've learned how to solve with letters before. So I'm going to subtract this guy and that guy over to the other side. A squared take away b squared take away c squared. I can't move this guy over because he's being multiplied. The 2bc is being multiplied by the cosine of A, so I can't add that over. But I can divide it. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2bc. And this is what I'm going to be using. So I have cosine of A equals a squared minus b squared minus c squared over negative 2bc. Now when you plug it in your calculators, you want to make sure you put parentheses at the top and at the bottom. And how you plug it in is up to you. You can use your inverse key at the beginning, you can use your inverse key at the end. It's totally up to you. I will do it at the end. The next one maybe I'll do it at the beginning. Cosine of A equals a squared, that's 45 squared, take away b squared, 34.604 squared, take away c squared, take away 20 squared, and don't forget, when you plug it in, you will put parentheses at the start and at the end, divided by parentheses negative 2 BC, 34.604 times C, which is 20. All right, so let's get practice plugging this in. Now, when I plug it in, I put the blue parentheses that I have here, I plug in my calculator. These little ones in pencil on the inside, I just use my multiplication key. I don't use parentheses on the inside, I just use my multiplication key. All right, so let's plug this in. I have parentheses 45 squared, take away 34.604 squared, take away 20 squared, close parentheses, divide -2 times 34.604 times 20. Syntax error. Okay, somewhere in here I messed up. I'm just going to retype it in. You can go ahead and get practice on your own. Type it in and see if it works for you. All right, 45 squared. Again, I open my parentheses, minus 34.604 squared, minus 20 squared, close parentheses, divide, open parentheses. Go a little slower this time, make sure I'm plugging everything in correctly. -2, -2 times 34.60 34.604. Oh, good grief. I can type this in, I promise. Okay. One more time. Parentheses 45 squared minus 34.604 squared minus 20 squared, close parentheses, divide, open, -2 -2 times 34.604 times 20. All right. Now, you end up with this negative decimal. Remember, that's not your final answer. Don't freak out. Kids often like, oh, why is my angle negative? That's not your angle. You still have cosine of A equals negative 0.308. I'm just going to put ... Remember, I'm not rounding. I just don't want to write the whole number down. And then I'm going to do inverse of that number. So I hit second cosine, second answer. To get the inverse of that last number that's in there, I hit equals and I get 107, and that is the answer for angle A. 107.993. 107.993. Add and subtract from 180, and when you do that, you get 25.007. All right, so this here is where the hard stuff happens, finding your angle A. You want to make sure, finding any angle, you want to make sure you understand how to do that. So we're going to try it one more time. We're going to do one more similar to this one. Number 2, A equals 8, B equals 12, and C equals 17, and we're still going to solve the triangle. A, B, C. (17, 8, and 12). Angle A, angle B, angle C, side A, side B, side C. All right, given information, 8, 12, and 17. Okay, now we're going to go through and find these. Now we're looking for all the angles, so we're definitely going to be using the inverse key at least for the first two, and then we can add and subtract from 180 to find the third. Okay, if I'm looking for angle A, that means I'm going to be using cosine A, which means I'm going to start with A squared. Try to get the formula down without looking back at it. Since you're using A, you're not going to use A on the inside, so B squared plus C squared minus 2B BC, and then ending with cosine of angle A. Again, I'm trying to get angle A by itself, cosine of A by itself, so I'm going to subtract these two guys over. A squared minus B squared minus C squared. A squared minus B squared minus C squared equals negative 2BC times cosine of angle A. And then I divide, because I want to get that by itself, the cosine of A by itself, by negative 2BC. Negative 2BC. Don't forget to put your parentheses there when you plug it in your calculator. Gone. Cosine of angle A equals A squared minus B squared minus C squared divided by negative 2BC. All right, I'm going to plug it in with some numbers. Cosine of angle A equals parentheses 8 squared minus 12 squared minus 17 squared divided by negative 2 times BC, so 12 times 12 and times 17. All right, so go ahead and plug that in. We have no decimals on that one. Might be a little easier. So don't forget, open parentheses, 8 squared minus 12 squared minus 17 squared, close parentheses, divide, open parentheses, negative 2 times 12 times 17, and close. And you end up with 0.9044, blah, blah, blah. So cosine of A equals 0.9044 dot, dot, dot. I'm not going to write the whole thing down. We do the inverse of that number. All right, so you do second cosine, second answer. To do the inverse of the last number, second cosine, second answer, and that is angle A equals 25.256. 25.256 degrees. Okay, we're now going to go through and find angle B. Now, we don't have enough to add and subtract from 180, so if we're looking for angle B, that means we're going to end with cosine B, which means we're starting with B squared. Again, you can use this right here as a guide, see if you can figure out the letters. If I'm using B squared, I'm not going to have B right in here, so it must be A squared plus C squared minus 2AC, and then ending with cosine of angle B. Subtract over, and divide. Go ahead and do that on your own. Hit pause, try it on your own, hit play and see if we're at the same spot. Okay, I ended up with B squared minus A squared minus C squared divided by negative 2AC once I subtracted and divided. Okay, cosine of B, I'm actually going to write it over here, cosine of B equals parentheses 12 squared minus 8 squared minus 17 squared, close parentheses, divide, parentheses, negative 2 times 8 times 17. Okay, let's practice plugging it in. Parentheses, 12 squared minus 8 squared minus 17 squared, close parentheses, divide, open, negative 2 times 8 times 17 equals 0.768 dot, dot, dot. That's cosine of B. So we're going to do cosine inverse of that number. Second cosine, second answer, and we end up with 39.791. 39.791. Now, I stated earlier, and I did not do it, I apologize, but if you wanted to, from the get-go, instead of doing the inverse at the end, you could do second cosine, open parentheses, and then plug everything in the way we did. I'll show you quickly. 12 squared minus 8 squared minus 17 squared, close parentheses, divide, open the next one, negative 2 times 8 times 17 equals, and then you get the answer. You don't have to do this, the second cosine, second answer at the end. Either way, it works out the same. It's up to you and how you want to plug it in. Okay, and then you add and subtract from 180, you end up with 114.953. And that there is your answer. Okay, the Heron's formula for area we will do together in class, so this is it for this lesson for now.